And thank you all for setting aside your Saturday agendas to be here. There's a lot of things that a lot of us could have been doing, but we chose to segment our time to be here for this important raising our sons to be men. So I was mentioned to me, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. A lot of us that are real close to the Lord always keeps God on our minds, and it's our turn to shed the light that we have inside of us to share it with our young people, because the Bible says train up those, and it says a child, but I say those that are younger than us, and when they are old, they will depart not far from it, and they will in turn train those.
That's right. That's right.
So it's not just a child, because in God's eyes, we all are children. Even if you're 68 years old like myself. Most people wouldn't think I was that old. I just got through talking to my son. He lives in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He's even coming to this event. So I would say those that are here to get on your phones and, let somebody know that this event is going on, where we're getting resources and sharing resources on how to raise our sons to be men. Because right now, and not all of them, but there's a growing majority that's being raised by the streets and being raised by the negative forces of internet and social media. Because there are some positive forces on the street and on social media and the internet. But we got to help them to be able to choose, between good and evil and those things that are going to be sabotaging to their great futures of those that do the right things. So at this time, I'm going to give you some time to get on your phone and do some good things. Tell somebody where you're at, what's going on, and see if they can get over here. Thank you.
I'm Reverend Paul Jakes, and I am assistant to Congressman Davis and also the faith-based coordinator. And today we are just grateful for you, and we're going to begin with this wonderful fatherhood fellowship, raising sons to men. So we're going to begin with our welcome. We are so very, very honored to have Congressman Danny K. Davis with us, ladies and gentlemen, one who has started more organizations, doctor, on the west side and even south side, helping organizations to thrive and to be successful. Legislation that he has done that has made a difference, not only for this district, but for America. Congressman Davis is one of a kind, one that we appreciate for his leadership, and we appreciate for his wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so glad to say that he has a wonderful staff, Sharita Logan, Willie, and also others that have worked so hard to make this happen. But with our welcome, we have Congressman Danny K. Davis. Give a big hand to him as he comes. Come on, let's give it to him. Let's give it to him. Congressman Danny K. Davis.
thank all of us for coming. And let me thank all of us for being able to wake up this morning. Every morning when I wake up, I like to wake up giving thanks and saying, you know, there are a lot of people who didn't wake up this morning. They went to bed last night, but they didn't wake up this morning. So no matter what the situation and what the circumstances, we always have something to be thankful for. It's good to see all of you on a Saturday morning, and I hope that we will have ourselves just a real productive day where everybody is talking to each other, everybody is engaged. So let's start, if we might, and I'd ask you to repeat after me. There was a gentleman who was a great educator. His name was Mays, Dr. Mays. He was the president of a great black college, Morehouse. And generally he'd give a speech. He'd always start with, and I'll ask you to repeat if you would after me. Life is but a minute.
Life is but a minute.
Just 60 seconds in it.
Just 60 seconds in it.
Forced upon us.
Forced upon us.
We didn't seek it and we didn't choose it.
We didn't seek it and we didn't choose it.
We couldn't refuse it.
We couldn't refuse it.
We suffer if we abuse it.
We suffer if we abuse it.
Just a tiny minute.
Just a tiny minute.
But eternity is in it.
But eternity is in it.
That was Dr. Benjamin Mays at Morehouse College. And of course, practically every student who ever went to Morehouse, they learned to say that because he said it so often and he said it so much. Why are we here today at Malcolm X College, a community college that has a great history and a real impact? As a matter of fact, it used to be Herzl Junior College, and it was named after a fellow named Theodore Herzl, who could be basically called the founder of modern Israel. He was a great Israeli leader, and where the college was located was in a Jewish community at the time over in the North Lawndale community, where Herzl Elementary School now sits. As the community changed, and as different people started coming to different places, the community became a predominantly black community. That is, black people were migrating from the South in the 1950s and early 60s, running hard, trying to get away from racism, trying to get away from prejudice, trying to get away from sharecropping, trying to get away from working all year, and he ended up in debt at the end of the year after having worked the whole year and only used a little bit of whatever it was that they generated. So black folks was getting out of there like Johnny going north. What's the first thing coming? They settled on the west side, which was the last open space, because white people who lived in those communities were moving out to suburban areas. Big suburban towns now were cornfields then. I remember going to Naperville when it first started to rise, and I got stuck because the street that I was on didn't have no pavement. It was mud, and it rained, and that kind of stuff. So things changed. It became a black community, and this school moved over to Crane High School. and it became Crane Junior College. Then as the area got blacker and blacker, and there was a fellow came in from Boston named Charlie Hurst from Amherst, Massachusetts, and students said, let's change the name to make it more relevant. And so there was a big uproar. And finally, as a matter of fact, I had started work for a community organization, and the chairman of that group did not. He was an elderly black man who was also rich, and he wasn't with the Malcolm X piece. So he told me, he says, I want you to go down and testify and let the board know that we don't want that school named after no gangster, crook, Malcolm X. Who is that? I said, well, Mr. Branch, the board has not said that. He said, I'm the board. I said, you're not the board. You're the chairman. He said, but I'm your boss. So I tell you what to do. I say, I agree that you're the boss, and I don't really want to argue with you. I said, but I have to follow the rules of the board. He said, well, if you don't, just tell them to name it after Whitney Young or some of them other Negro leaders. We don't want Malcolm. And of course, I said, no, I can't do it. So he said, you're going to be insubordinate. I said, I don't want to be insubordinate. I just want to follow the rules. Well, we changed the name to Malcolm X Community College. And it became a more interesting and a more relevant institution because Dr. Hurst had units of the college down in the area called Jewtown, which was an area further down and south of here. And he named different units: Harriet Tubman campus, Frederick Douglass campus. And the whole idea was to promote an understanding of blackness, of what it really meant to be black, different from being colored, or different from being a Negro. And of course, they ran Dr. Hurst out of town. He was a Republican. They discovered that he was a Republican. And Chicago was a Democratic town. And a Democratic town didn't want to have no Republican guy leading a community college. So they sent Dr. Hurst. Well, what they did, he created another college himself called Daniel Hale Williams University after they fired him. I was a young fellow, but I ended up serving on the board of Daniel Hale Williams University. That lasted a while, but he got put out of business there. But then there is another university that was created called East-West University. That's on Michigan Avenue. It's an 8-story building. Dr. Walsey Kahn is the chancellor, and they got a lot of room for students. It's a private institution that Dr. Chan was able to raise the money to create and build a new building. If you're ever down there, it's the only new building in that area on Wabash. And he was able to do that. But it all originated out of the institution that ultimately became Malcolm X, and then another institution that became East-West University. The panel discussions are designed to be town and not somebody just lecturing and talking to somebody else and they sit and listen. We want you to ask as many questions as come to mind. We want you to say whatever is on your mind. And we want you to suggest, how do we make America a different country than it is? Much of the conversation around communities is what's happening to black boys and black men. Every time people talk about problems, they talk about problems created by black boys and black men. What are the causes of that? Is there truth to it? If it's true, can we change it? Can we change black boys growing up not having hope and possibility? If individuals have hope, almost all the people that you hear about who are whatever it is that we call great, they weren't born great. They weren't born engineers. They weren't born presidents. They weren't born millionaires. They was born just like any other baby was born, just like any other child was born. As a matter of fact, we used to have a thing about the ghetto, and that song, and I know we got stuff, Paul, but I'm really on kind of a roll right now, and I think what I'm saying is probably just as important as the video. We'll get to the video, but I want us to dig deep, if we will, into thinking. That's why we decided to have this, raising black boys to become black men. Why do we have so many black men in the penitentiary? I go to the penitentiary to visit, and practically everybody there is a black man. I've been to every kind of penitentiary there is in the United States. I've been to Leavenworth. I've been to the federal penitentiaries. 3 weeks ago, we took a bunch of kids to the Sheridan Penitentiary to see their fathers. Some of them had never seen their children at all, because they went to the penitentiary before the children were born, and they never seen them. There were people there who hadn't seen their children in 6 and 8 years. One man didn't even know his son. And he was whining and stuff, saying his son must have missed the bus, what happened. And the boy happened to hear him, and he was sitting at the other table. He said, "Here I am, Daddy. I'm here." They hadn't seen each other in 8 years. So we hope to have conversations about all those kind of things. And Mr. Chairman, please the video.
I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I have been for almost 25 years. So I've looked in the eyes of killers and robbers and people who are charged with all kinds of crimes, and I have never yet met one who was unreachable. I have never met one who was soulless. So I have 2 suggestions. One suggestion I know that the Congressman has done himself: love a child who's not yours. So it's easy to love your own child and to preach to your own child and to tell your own child, "I'm proud of you." But what about the one on the corner whose mama's been in the streets the whole time he's been alive, and grandma's too old to check in or take care of him? We need to love those kids too, as our own. And you do it and I know the Congressman has done that for someone I know. So I know he knows how to do it, so follow that example. And the second one is actually listen to the youth. Let the youth lead. because we bring them into rooms and then we don't hear their voices, and they are absolutely beautiful and brilliant. Let them lead. We can't do things the way we've always done it. They have all kinds of ideas, all kinds of technology at their fingertips that they can do in their sleep, that people my age, we fumble and try to figure out how to do it. Listen to them and let them lead, because once they know that they're loved and they're seen, they will fly. But we oftentimes don't give them the resources, we don't get them in the right spaces, and we stifle them. Or I've sat on many panels where I have literally heard adults say, well, we just need to throw this generation and start over. Love a child who's not your own, and then give them the resources they need to fly.
Oh, and I think I think those are excellent recommendations. But let me ask a question. How do we learn to love? If love doesn't come just automatically, I think of one of my favorite expressions in the Bible that says, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, if I have not charity, I am as a tinkling cymbal and a sounding brass. And though I would have the gift of prophecy and knoweth all things, if I have not love, I am nothing. Anybody ever read that piece? Say, if I have not love, I am nothing. I remember one philosopher said that love that works is love made visible. And that if you cooking, if you bake a cake and it's not baked with love, rather than being sweet, it becomes bitter bread. that if you begrudgingly baking a cake and you intend for it to be satisfying to whoever is going to eat it, but if you didn't love doing it, if you didn't feel a certain way doing it, you may as well throw that cake out. Say, because it has an opposite effect. And then he went on to say, if you work and don't work with love, it would be better for you to sit at the gate and beg for alms. It would be better that you do like the guys on the street asking with a cup. If you're going to work begrudgingly. So I ain't never really had a job that I didn't like except one, and that was chopping cotton. I used to chop cotton, but if you got sophisticated with it, you'd know how to do it with a little pizzazz.
Stand and ask your question, sir.
And and so you try to make a game out of it, something that you don't like, turn it into a game. And if you turn it into a game, then it becomes fun. So even things that I don't like doing, I just kind of try to turn it into a little game. And I go ahead and do it anyway.
Listening to you a lot, and I'm just impressed. And so I was thinking how you were raised, what you have accomplished during those difficult times. And then you have the current generation that have so much, yet, like you just mentioned, specifically the African American community, I'm African, all trouble is boys, the black boys, then black men. So do you think, is it maybe the heart of the environment during your generation is better, and the current generation have it so easy that easiness is creating such a dilemma, because you have African communities, you have other immigrants that's coming to this country, and even now, as we, with the lots of immigrants coming to the community, a lot of the city itself is allocating the resource to this new immigrant, and a resource, the job, in like white flight that happened in 2090s and 80s. So I'm just curious, what do you think is the problem? Is it because, to me it's just so amazing that you were able to, people like you and many others during such a difficult time did so well. It's impossible to imagine where you got to from where you came, but yet the young people of this generation, that you cannot even force them to have a decent respect, to come and attend, to listen to their parents, to so much. So I'm just curious, what is it that it is this generation, is it too easy for them? Maybe we need to go back, and hardship, and I heard, I'll just end with this. I heard this video online. It says that Africa needs to be colonized because they have killing each other and they have not developed. I'm African and our government is so bad, they are so corrupted, they don't care about it. Or is it maybe something is wrong about us as a black people, that we are just incompetent to really lead out without the white man telling us how to govern, how to live? Thank you.
Learn how to fix a light bulb. So if your lights go out, you know how to put a light bulb in and get light. Learn how to fix your toilet. So if your toilet won't flush and you ain't got no money, you just call a plumber. You can learn how to do it yourself and know how to do it. Learn how to fix the lock on your door. So if it ain't working, you can fix it. You don't have to call a locksmith. Learn how to do the things that are just practical, everyday things, meaning learn the vocational skills that you need to have. There are times when my car won't start. I wish I could start it. And I ain't got to get nobody. Learn how to fix a flat. If you just do practical stuff. That was Booker Washington's. He started a school called Tuskegee Institute. He didn't really start it, but he made it flourish. And it's one of the outstanding. Du Bois, on the other hand, was a guy say, learn politics. Learn government, learn decision making, learn all of for example, in spite of all we hear on TV, more than half the black people don't vote when there's an election in this country. I'm saying, any TV you turn on, any radio you turn on, they talking about voting and who gonna be elected. And yet, in spite of all that, more than half the black folks don't vote.
That's right.
I mean, we have not learned enough to know that this voting business is a way to have power and influence when it comes to certain kind of decisions being made. We just have not learned it. We just don't know enough about it or don't believe enough in it. We lost the election for state's attorney, and the state's attorney is the guy or lady who bring all the charges against the people who end up in the penitentiary and end up in jail. And we allowed a person to be elected that actually charged a boy, I think he was 12 years old, or somewhat, and that person became elected because we didn't vote. I'm saying after all the conversation, after millions of dollars being spent on advertising, after begging and pleading and doing all that some people could do, we still did not vote. So how do we make sure that as children are growing up, that they grow up with enough belief in the system that we live in to make that a reality of our being? It ain't nothing really special about it, but it is. I'm saying if we don't put the time, energy, and effort in educating ourselves, and a lot of people say they educated, and I say a lot of people got information. There's a big difference between being educated and having information. Education is something that you do, that changes you when you get it. And I think you were next, and
Yeah,
go right ahead.
Congressman.
No, you was next.
And I know
he's been trying to get in.
And I know we got a schedule that we're on, and the Congressman has the power to change that schedule. But from 10:35 to 11:15, we're supposed to be on social action, empowering community on effective engagement, just to let the audience know, because I don't know whether everybody got a program when they came in to know what this particular session is about. And, you know, there's a usual saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so try to get things on track. I want to answer one thing about social action. Boxing out negativity was brought about with some social action, because I sat in the congressman's office talking to Willie Burton. He was talking about some groups. I said, well, did you contact Boxing Out Negativity? And so I called Derek Brown right there on the phone. I was sitting there while Willie Burton was talking. And with that, Boxing Out Negativity is here. So we've got to help each other in each other social action group that's doing good, because a lot of times we get isolated. We just think about ourselves. And when we only think about ourselves, we don't create a net, which is networking, that helps save all of these youth that are going out there. We got to stop thinking selfish. We got to help each other, because I got some resources and network that can help someone. You can have some resources that can help someone, and we got to help each other, because we are in a spiritual, social, economic war.
Yes.
And that's what it is. If you look and see how many of our kids, because we're going to be talking about health and stuff, if you're looking at the death by age, most of our young people are dying by homicide and injuries. Only when you get to, I'm 68, and at my age, does death occur for health reasons. And so we're going to be talking about that in the next section. And so that's how we have to change the environment. That's how we're going to change what happens with us. And one of the things is, and they talk about love, is loving other groups and helping other groups and thinking about other groups, and in turn, hope they think about us. That's how we're going to increase our progress and change what's happening out on the street. So I'm just going to stop right there. And just, you and the panel, I haven't heard him say anything. Maybe he want to speak to some of this here. Who's on the panel?
Reverend Rutledge.
Yes.
Speak to that issue, because it's about social action, empowering. How can we empower? Because we're supposed to give people like the congressman ideas and answers so he can work and make some legislative change that can help with the ideas and solutions that we come up with. Go ahead.
My answer to your question. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. My answer is, I
I've heard it a couple times here, is voting. If it's something you don't like and something going on in your community, you can change it. You can change the policies. You can change your alderman, your committeeman by voting. And that's what I'm here for now. Let me explain something to you. We've had this problem where our young people will come to our different sessions and they will say, well, my vote is not going to count. Your vote does count. What we have done in the county now, we're reaching out to you young people. We will pay you to come and learn about voting, learn about the process. We pay $250 for any young person that is a junior, senior in college, high school. We pay for technical support. We pay them $350. And then when you come, we teach you for those 3 hours the process and how to make things happen on election. We don't have to take anything from anybody as a group of people. Why? Because we can vote them out. Now, we've changed another thing. Anybody that's 17 and will be 18 by the upcoming election, which is November, you can vote. It used to be that you had to be 18 to even register, but now you can be 17 as long as you will be 18 by the next election. All you have to do is get involved. I want to say to the young people, I've been fighting for the last 10 years to get us involved in this process. We go up north and we train 3,000 to 4,000 young people that don't look like us. And we pay them on election day. You come in our community, we don't even have 200. Couldn't your niece, your nephew use that $250, that $300? But we don't get involved in it. That's our problem, getting involved in the things that we need to get involved in. Go ahead, because I can continue.
Okay, he has a question.
If I may be so bold to speak on behalf of my generation for a second, I think one of the biggest issues currently facing people in my age demographic is we are facing an epidemic of a lack of hope. And it can be hope in anything. It could be hope in your elected officials. It could be hope in the state of the world. And as someone who suffers from depression, I think I am someone who is able to say that when you lose hope, you will cling on to anything. I think that's where we see people going to extreme ideologies, because they're going out and they're trying to find something to have hope in. And it's not necessarily filling that lack of hope. I also think the lack of hope is somewhat reasonable for people around my age. It's very hard to afford a house. The world is currently facing temperatures that are historic. There is a lot of reason for people to be scared, and I'm not saying it justifies the behavior, but I do understand how fear can be paralyzing for a lot of individuals. So I guess my question would be simply, how do you find hope when you don't have hope?
And that's a big question that behavior health people are wrestling with that question all day, every day, because it is so accurate. And all of the purveyors of hope, there are a lot of people whose work is around purveying hope. The preacher's job is to purvey hope.
That's right. That's right.
The counselor's job is to convey hope. The school teacher's job is to convey hope. The social worker's job. All of these entities are purveyors of hope. But I also say that an ounce of prevention is always worth much more than a pound of cure.
Right, right.
If you are a child and you never seen your daddy, or you don't know who your daddy is, that creates within you a lack of hope. And there are millions of children in this country, especially black children, who don't know who their daddy is, who have never seen their daddy, have no contact with their daddy. There are homeless children. There are foster children who live in single-parent homes where they barely got enough to eat and pay the light bill every month. And their family got to stand in line and get food stamps and stand in line to try to get food. And all the arguments in the family are generally, it ain't enough money to go around to get children just the basic things that they need. How do I know? Because I work with families like that. I work on behalf of families like that. And so it's very challenging. I work with families individually like that, but I also work with the system that deals with families like that. So we got to do whatever can be done to reduce poverty. A big factor is people living in poverty with barely enough. There are thousands of people right now in the city of Chicago whose gas is off. They don't have any gas in the house. In order to cook, they have these little hot plates and things. In order to take a bath, they don't have any hot water. I ain't talking about some I heard about.
Yes, yes.
I'm not talking about some I read about. I'm talking about something I know about. How do you change that? You change it by voting, by organizing.
That's right. That's right.
And putting different people in place who make decisions about that. And if we don't do that, and we right now are running the risk of the monies that we allocate for that. One guy who's running for president wants to cut what we currently provide. And is saying that he's going to cut what he currently provides. Many of our senior citizens live on $1,000 a month.
That's right.
That's all the money they get. They get their Social Security check is $1,000 a month. Some of them is $900 and something. All of that contributes to the despondency sometimes that people feel. So all of these things need working on, but the best way to work on them is to, first of all, know about it, and secondly, organize to work against it. And without organization, you're not going to have much power and much influence.
Thank you. We're bleeding into the next segment, and we can continue, but I just want to let us know where we at. We were supposed to end this discussion at 11:15, and 11:20 we were to go into health, and then at 12:15 we would end that and then go into lunch at 12:30. So let's try to get this in real quick.
Yes,
if you
sir.
could do it
Yes,
in
sir.
maybe 3 minutes, and then we'll move into health. And I saw one other hand.
I just want to.
We need to move, is what I'm saying.
I just want to add to his statement, and I just want to add this in. I was taught this, and I grew up on the West Side. I work downtown. My job is because of the Congressman. I've been around him all my life, but I was taught as a young person that my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and his righteousness. Mm-hmm. We first, if nothing else, we need to get a connection or a relationship with God. The next thing is to find us somebody that we believed in. When I was coming along, I believed in the Congressman. I followed him. I watched him. My auntie was his secretary for years. Everything he did, we was involved. And I watched and I learned. See, God tells us to take my yoke upon you and learn of me. And when you learn of the goodness of God, and then you get someone that you can watch, there's a lot of people in our community that we can watch and we can pattern ourselves after and we can believe in. But first we have to believe in ourselves and then believe that we can make a change. And the biggest change that we can make, and I'm ending it up, the biggest change, young people, don't ever think that you can't make a difference. We can't say it enough. Vote. Get yourself together with your neighbors and your young people and say, we're going to make ourselves committee of one, and we're going to do this. We're going to vote, and we're going to vote you out.
All right.
Don't let nobody tell you what you can't do.
All right, thank you. Now we got to, I see 5 hands. I see 5 hands, and some people haven't had a chance to ask one question. Okay, no, hold on. I see the sister from, she looks like a queen from Queen Nigeria. Please let the queen speak, and then this brother, and then let's move to the next section with health. All right.
Okay.
All right.
While I bring the mic to her, I know we have a couple of hands here. I just want to say maybe everybody should ask and they can answer at once rather than going back.
They can ask the question in the health segment, but we've got to move from this section.
Yeah,
Go right
good
ahead.
morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Queen Bumi Saidat Ajibade Azan.
Amen.
I'm an African lady. I'm from Nigeria. I've been through so many things, so I'm happy to be part of this program today because I was raised by a single mother. And all what we're talking about, I went through it. I'm an activist in Nigeria. I'm happy I met, I call Danny K. Davis, I call him Dad. That's what I call him. Because since I met him, in America here, he has been playing a fatherly role in my life. And They are saying they want to train the boy to be men. Thank God for that. We're happy for that. But you can't leave us alone. You have to train girls too to be women in future. Because all these children we're talking about, our sons, we are their mother. They came through us. We have something that bound us together. And motherly role in children's life goes a very long way. Because they listen to us. You will have your way of talking to them. And they listen. Because in this world, I know so many men that they are running away from their responsibilities. They've leave the mother and complain, the mother is this, the mother is that. Even if the mother is not good, try to take care of your children than neglecting these children to their mother. And they say charity begins at home, please. Although they go to school, but before they go to school from little, you have to teach them from your house. What to do this, don't do that, this is bad, this is this. From there, the teacher will take it up. But you can't leave your children when they were small and give every responsibility to teacher. Mm-hmm. So we women, we have a lot of work to do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like me, I raise my children too by myself. I have 4 boys and a girl. There are some times I need to cry. Mm-hmm. There are some times I need to beg. If I want to kneel down, they'll say, no, don't do that. You see, all these children we're talking about, when they are growing up, if they miss their step, that's why they join gang, they join all these things. Because in this life, fear of God is the foundation of wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, what I'm trying to say is, as we are now, we have a lot of work in our hands. Because, like me now, I'm a sport lady. I play long tennis for Nigeria before I came here. I'm into acting, I'm into movie, I'm into music, which I discover myself and I go for it. So what I'm trying to do here now, like in Nigeria, we have a lot of opportunities. It depends for the kids to grab it. So like what the guy said, that even if you don't discover yourself, how do you think for yourself? You know? Because a lot of things is going on in the world. So what I'm trying to do, I'm throwing it to the public.
Can you wrap it up?
So that Daddy K. Davis, they can help us in the community. But we have to have our program in our community too. What do you want the government or the community to do for us? We should try and have a program so that we can get funds, we can get promoting, they can help our children. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.